My daughter's school lost her after recess, then told me she must have known him. She didn't scream. When I asked the teacher how he got that close to her without someone doing something, she whispered the school didn't want a scandal. I couldn't breathe. That was 9 days ago. Yesterday, the district superintendent resigned without comment. Before I got full custody of my 7-year-old daughter, Bella. Had a pretty awful life. Her mom convinced the court that I was unfit to parent on the grounds that I had a public intoxication charge back when I was in college. But while Bella was in the clutches of my ex-wife, her stepdad basically treated her as a human punching bag. And I knew this because whenever I'd sneakily find a way to see her, visiting her at school during lunch break, showing up to her after-school activities, she always had a new bruise or cut on her tiny self. But the second I was given full custody, I made a promise to myself that I'd protect her at all costs. Fast forward to a few months later, when we were at the local food court. I was sipping my cold brew watching Belle color in the kids' menu. It was a rare moment of parental peace when everything seemed right with the world. And suddenly, Belle looked up and frantically started waving at someone outside of our booth. I looked over and saw a man with a 1,000-year stare, not a hair on his head. Very creepy. Once I really paid attention, I noticed his arm frantically moving up and down under the table. I strained my neck to further inspect, and saw his belt had been undone, and his trousers were halfway down his legs. Chills went up my spine. Bella was so young that I didn't want to ruin her innocence by telling her what was going on, but I knew why that sick beastard was really looking at her. So I immediately moved to sit beside her. Hey Bella, I think you should focus on your coloring. My voice was assertive, strict. Luckily, she redirected her focus, and that's when the manager walked by our table. Hey, do you see that nice man over there? I tilted my head towards his table. Have you noticed? I let my eyes finish the story. When the manager went over to talk, both of the old man's hands came into view. I noticed a hospital bracelet wrapped around his wrist, and his eyes flashed with genuine confusion. My eyebrows furrowed, and I honestly didn't know what the F was going on. While the manager talked, his hands began to shake. Was it Parkinson's? I felt my cheeks flush with embarrassment for causing a scene, but just as I was about to stop looking and forget about it, the manager started yelling, "Give me your effing phone right now." He was 6'5" and very muscular, so his words were intimidating. The old man gave a tight smile, like he knew there was no talking his way out. As soon as the phone was placed on the table unlocked, I saw it. He was on the Photos app, and there were dozens of photos of Bella. Angles from under the table, close-ups of her face, everything. And even though I wanted to slam him against the sidewalk until his brains were mincemeat, I did nothing. As if I really wanted to keep Bella safe. First thing I had to do was shield her from the situation. "Daddy, what's going on with my wave friend?" She asked it so innocently that it practically broke my heart. In a moment of quick thinking, I demanded that she go and use the toilet because we were going to leave soon. The coldness in my voice made her sad, but I didn't care because it got her to listen. I walked over and grabbed the man's phone to make sure I wasn't just seeing things. Every part of me recoiled. In his camera roll were labeled folders filled with photos of different children. Brunette one from playground, ginger one from the beach, blonde one that hit puberty early. There weren't just 3 or 4 either. There were dozens. I swear my finger was scrolling for a solid minute before I got to the end of his depraved collection. That's when Belle returned. I walked her over to the supervised play area of the mall and told her I'd be back soon. It was a rare moment where her emotions didn't matter to me because her safety came first. Even as tears were streaming down her face because she thought she'd done something wrong, I frankly didn't give an F. I walked back to the food court, expecting to see the old man being beaten to a pulp by the other men who had seen what was going on. But instead, they were hugging him. One was even patting his back. "Don't worry, we understand," he reassured. I genuinely wished I had an AK-47 in my hands. "The F are you thinking? This man just assaulted my baby girl." "Yo, relax, brother," the manager interrupted. "We just called the old man's son and found out he's an ex-veteran. His brain is messed up. He can't help himself." He said it like it was the most reasonable, justified explanation known to mankind. I glanced over at the old man who had a faint smirk plastered on his face. My dad was an ex-veteran. My granddad was an ex-veteran. None of them struggled to not be a kitty-fiddling piece of shit. Every bone in my body was screaming at me to pick him up and crush him like an insect. But I didn't. Instead, I just smiled. "Oh, my bad," I exclaimed sweetly. And that R-worded old man bought it. He really thought I had fallen for his little ex-veteran piece. But no, I was playing the long game. And by the time I was finished with him, he wished that he had died in whatever war he came from. I returned to Bella at the play area and took her home. That night, after she went to bed, I sat at my kitchen table staring at the wall. I couldn't get those images out of my head. The photos, the smirk on the old man's face, the way everyone just let him go. I poured myself a glass of whiskey, something I rarely did since getting custody. Tried to calm my racing thoughts. The amber liquid burned my throat, but did nothing to wash away the disgust and anger I felt. I kept seeing Bella's innocent face as she waved to that monster. I kept thinking about all those other children in his folders. The next morning, I called the mall's corporate office. I explained what happened and asked for security footage. They said they'd look into it, but couldn't share footage with me directly due to privacy policies. I also filed a police report, but the officer didn't seem particularly concerned. He took down the information and said they'd look into it. I wasn't satisfied. I needed to know who this man was and make sure he couldn't hurt any more children. So I started going back to the mall at different times, hoping to spot him again. After 3 days of nothing, I finally saw him sitting at the same food court table, watching children play in the nearby area. This time, I was prepared. I sat down at a table where he couldn't see me and took out my phone. I started recording him from a distance. Sure enough, within minutes, his hand disappeared under the table. I felt suck, but kept recording. Evidence, that's what I needed. I waited for about 10 minutes recording everything. The way he stared at kids, the way his arm moved rhythmically under the table, the way he'd occasionally glance around to make sure no one was watching him. It was all so calculated and disgusting. When I had enough footage, I approached him directly. "Remember me?" I asked, sliding into the seat across from him. His eyes widened with recognition, and his hand quickly came up from under the table. "I don't think we've met," he said, but his voice trembled slightly. "Cut the crap. I know what you were doing with my daughter the other day, and I know what you're doing right now." I kept my voice low and controlled, even though I wanted to scream. He started with the same act. "I have a medical condition. My nephew can explain. Save it, I interrupted. I've been recording you for the last 10 minutes. I held up my phone so he could see. I'm taking this to the police. The real police, not mall security. The smirk disappeared from his face. You don't understand, I'm suck. I need help, not punishment. I leaned in closer. You know what? I actually agree with you. You are suck and you do need help. But that doesn't mean you get to walk around taking pictures of children while you get your rocks off. He looked around nervously. Please, don't make a scene. I can explain everything. I'm not making a scene, I said calmly. I'm just letting you know that I'm watching you. But I'm not the only one who's going to be watching you from now on. I got up and walked away, my heart pounding in my chest. I wasn't sure if I'd done the right thing by confronting him, but at least he knew someone was onto him. Maybe that would be enough to scare him off. I took the video straight to the police station. The officer at the desk seemed more interested this time, especially when I mentioned I had video evidence. He called over a detective named Sarah Rodriguez, who specialized in crimes against children. Detective Rodriguez took me to a small interview room and watched the video carefully. This is definitely concerning, she said, but unfortunately, it's not clear enough to make an artist. Can't actually see what he's doing under the table. But what about the photos on his phone? I asked. The manor saw them too. Did you or the manor take any photos of what was on his phone? She asked. I shook my head. No, it all happened so fast. She sighed. That makes things harder. We can investigate him. But without clear evidence of a crime, there's only so much we can do. I felt deflated. So he just gets to keep doing this? I didn't say that, Detective Rodriguez replied. Give me his description and any information you have. We'll look into his background, see if he has any priors. And I'll send some plainclothes officers to monitor them all. I provided everything I knew, which wasn't much, just his appearance and the locations where I'd seen him. It didn't feel like enough. In the meantime, she added, be careful about confronting him directly. People like this can be unpredictable when cornered. I nodded, but inside I was seething. The system was failing these kids. It was failing my Bella. Over the next week, I kept taking Bella to different places for our weekend activities. I was paranoid about seeing the old man again, constantly scanning crowds for his bald head. Bella noticed my distraction. Daddy, why do you keep looking around? She asked during a trip to the park. Just making sure you're safe, sweetheart, I replied, trying to sound casual. From the bad man at the mall? She asked innocently. I froze. What do you mean, Bella? I heard you talking to the big man at the mall. Said the bald man was taking pictures of me. That's bad, right? Kids hear everything. I should have known better than to think she hadn't picked up on what was happening. I sat her down on a bench and tried to explain in a way that wouldn't scare her. Yes, that's bad. Some people take pictures of kids without asking, and that's not okay. If you ever see someone doing that, or if anyone ever makes you feel uncomfortable, you tell me right away. Hey, she nodded solemnly. Is that why you've been sad and angry? I'm not sad or angry with you, Bella. I'm just worried about keeping you safe. You don't have to worry, Daddy. I'm super strong. She flexed her little arms and I couldn't help but smile. Yes, you are, but it's still my job to protect you. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about all the other kids in that creep's photo collection. What if he was still out there taking pictures? What if he escalated to something worse? The police weren't moving fast enough. Next day, I dropped Bella off at school and decided to do some investigating on my own. I went back to the mall and talked to some of the regular vendors. A barista at the coffee shop remembered the old man. Oh yeah, that guy. He comes in almost every day around 11. Always orders the same thing, small black coffee. Never tips, she wrinkled her nose. Kind of gives me the creeps, to be honest. Has he ever mentioned his name or where he lives? I asked. No, but he pays with a credit card sometimes. I could probably check the name next time he comes in. She offered, seeming to understand my concern. I thanked her and gave her my number, asking her to text me if she saw him again. I did the same with a few other vendors. By the end of the day, I had several people on the lookout. 2 days later, I got a text while at work. Creepy guy is here. Credit card says William Thompson. A name. Finally, I thanked the barista and immediately started searching online. There were several William Thompsons in our area, but I narrowed it down by age and appearance using social media and public records. I found him on Facebook. Hardly any posts or friends, but his profile picture matched. According to his profile, he was a retired, elevated school janitor. The thought of him working around teenagers for years made my skin crawl. His profile listed his neighborhood, not his exact address, but it was a start. I considered driving there after work, but Detective Rodriguez's warning about confronting him directly made me hesitate. Instead, I called her with the new information. She seemed impressed. Good work. We'll look into him. And yes, we can check if there were any complaints filed during his time at the school. I felt a small sense of accomplishment, but it wasn't enough. I wanted this man stopped before he could hurt any more children. The next day was Saturday, and I had promised Bella we'd go to the community pool. It was her favorite weekend activity, especially now that she was getting better at swimming. I was nervous about taking her to a public place where kids would be in swimwear, but I didn't want to disappoint her. We arrived early to avoid the crowds. Bella was excited, chattering about showing me her new swimming skills. I helped her put on her floaties and watch her splash around in the shallow end. For a while, everything seemed normal. Then I saw him, William Thompson, sitting on a bench near the pool, wearing sunglasses and a baseball cap. He had a newspaper, but he wasn't reading it. He was watching the children in the pool. My blood ran cold when I realized he was looking directly at Bella. I immediately got into the pool and stayed close to her, positioning myself between her and Thompson's line of sight. I discreetly took out my phone and called Detective Rodriguez. He's at the community pool right now, I whispered, watching the kids. My daughter's here. Stay calm, she replied. I'm sending officers. Don't approach him. Just keep your daughter close. I hung up and tried to act normal for Bella's sake. Hey, sweetie, let's practice your swimming in the other direction, I suggested, guiding her away from where Thompson could see her clearly. But I like this part better, she protested. Just for a little while, I insisted. Then we can come back. I kept glancing over at Thompson. He seemed to realize I had spotted him because he suddenly became very interested in his newspaper, but he didn't leave. It took 20 agonizing minutes for the police to arrive. 2 plainclothes officers entered the pool area casually, then approached Thompson. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I saw them ask for his ID. They talked for a few minutes then, to my disbelief, they just left him there with a warning. I was furious. I got Bella out of the pool, dried her off quickly, and told her we needed to leave. But we just got here, she complained. I know, sweetie, I'm sorry. We'll come back another day. I rushed her to the changing rooms, helped her get dressed, and hurried to the exit. As we were leaving, one of the officers stopped me. Sir, we spoke with Mr. Thompson. Says he's just enjoying the day at the pool. We can't ask someone for sitting on a bench. Did you check his phone? I demanded. Did you look for photos? We asked to see his phone, but without a warrant, we can't force him to show us. He refused, which is his right. I was seething. So you're just going to let him sit there and? Dad, who are you talking to? Bella interrupted, tugging at my hand. The officer gave me a sympathetic look. We're keeping an eye on him, sir. That's all we can do right now. I took Bella home, my mind racing. The system was failing. The police couldn't or wouldn't do what was necessary to protect these kids. I was starting to realize that if I wanted Thompson stopped, I might have to take matters into my own hands. That night, after Bella was asleep, I drove back to Thompson's neighborhood. I felt like a creep myself, cruising slowly down streets, looking for any sign of him. Eventually, I spotted his car, an old blue Buick, parked in front of a small, rundown house at the end of a cul-de-sac. I parked a block away and just sat there, watching his house. The lights were on inside. What was he doing in there, looking at his collection of photos? Playing his next outing? The thought made me suck. I considered breaking in and stealing his phone or computer, anything that would have evidence on it, but that would be illegal. And if I got caught, I could lose custody of Bella. I couldn't risk that. After about an hour of sitting there feeling increasingly like a stalker myself, I drove home. I needed a better plan. The next day, I called an ESSEC to work and went to the elevated school where Thompson had worked. Told the secretary I was considering enrolling my daughter and wanted to speak with some long-term staff members about the school's history. I was introduced to Linda Martinez, a math teacher who had been there for over 30 years. After some small talk about the school, I casually mentioned I thought I recognized a former staff member. William Thompson? Wasn't he a janitor here? Linda's friendly demeanor changed instantly. Yes, he was. He retired about 5 years ago. Did you know him well? I pressed. She hesitated. Not really. He kept to himself mostly. I could tell she was holding something back. I'm actually not looking to enroll my daughter, I admitted. I'm concerned about Thompson. I've seen him taking inappropriate photos of children at the mall and the community pool, my daughter included. Linda's face paled. I knew it, she whispered. We all suspected, but there was never any proof. Suspected what? She looked around to make sure no one was listening. There were rumors. Girls complained about him watching them in the locker room areas. One student said she caught him taking pictures through a vent. But when the administration investigated, they couldn't find any evidence. The school didn't want a scandal, so they just made sure he wasn't assigned to clean near the girls' facilities anymore. My hands clenched into fists. And they let him keep working here. Around teen years? It was never proven, she said defensively. And he was close to retirement anyway. I thanked her for the information and left, even more determined to stop Thompson. The school had failed those girls. Police were failing the children at the mall and pool. I wasn't going to fail Bella. I spent the next few days formulating a plan. I needed evidence that the police couldn't ignore. I decided to set a trap. The following Saturday, I asked my neighbor Jennifer to watch Bella for a few hours. Jennifer was a retired kindergarten teacher who adored Bella, and I trusted her completely. I went to the mall and positioned myself at a table where I could see Thompson's usual spot. Sure enough, around 11 a.m., he showed up with his small black coffee. He sat down and started his routine, pretending to read while actually watching children in the play area. I had brought a better camera this time with a zoom lens. I started taking photos of him taking photos. I made sure to capture clear shots of his hand under the table, his phone occasionally coming into view, and the direction of his gaze toward the children. After about an hour, he got up and headed toward the bathroom. This was my chance. Followed him, waiting outside until he went in. The bathroom was empty except for him. I entered and stood by the sink, pretending to wash my hands while watching him in the mirror. He went into a stall but didn't close the door completely. I could see him through the crack, taking out his phone and scrolling through the photos he had just taken. His face had that same suck smile I'd seen before. I quickly took out my phone and started recording video through the crack in the door. I captured clear footage of him looking at photos of children, zooming in on certain parts, his hand moving in his lap. It was disgusting, but it was the evidence I needed. Just as I was about to stop recording, the bathroom door opened. Another man walked in. Thompson quickly put his phone away and came out of the stall. He saw me standing there and froze, recognition dawning on his face. You, he said, his voice a mixture of fear and anger. Me. Replied calmly, putting my phone in my pocket. Enjoying your photos, William? His eyes widened at the use of his name. You've been following me just like you've been following children. The other man in the bathroom looked confused, but quickly finished his business and left, sensing the tension. You don't understand, Thompson said, his voice taking on that same pleading tone he'd used before. I have urges. I can't help it. Save it for the police, I said. I have everything I need now. His expression changed then, from pathetic to threatening. No one will believe you. I'm just an old man with a medical condition. If you keep harassing me, I'll file a restraining order. Maybe even sue you for defamation. I laughed. Go ahead. I'd love to see you try to explain your medical condition to a judge while they review the evidence on your phone. You think you're so smart, he snarled. You have no idea who you're dealing with. I've been doing this for decades. No one has ever caught me, and no one ever will. The admission sent chills down my spine. How many children had this monster victimized over the years? That ends today, I said firmly. He took a step toward me, his face contorted with rage. I know where you live, he hissed. I know where your daughter goes to school. Back off or you'll regret it. My blood ran cold. Had he been following us? The thought of him watching Bella, knowing her routines, was unbearable. But I couldn't show fear. That sounds like a threat, William. Want to say it again while I record it? He backed off slightly. This isn't over, he muttered, pushing past me to leave the bathroom. I waited a few minutes, then left as well. Thompson was nowhere to be seen. I immediately called Detective Rodriguez and told her what had happened, including Thompson's threat. Come to the station right now, she said, her voice urgent. Bring all the evidence you have. I drove straight there, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. Had I put Bella in more danger by confronting Thompson? What if he really did know where we lived? At the station, I showed Detective Rodriguez everything. Photos I'd taken of Thompson watching children, the video of him looking at pictures in the bathroom stall, and I played the audio of his threat. This is good, she said, really good. The admission that he's been doing this for decades is particularly damning, and threatening a child is something we take very seriously. So you'll arrest him now? I asked, hopefully. We'll bring him in for questioning and get a warrant to search his devices, but I need you to promise me something. What? No more amateur detective work. You've done great, but you've also put yourself and possibly your daughter at risk. Let us handle it from here. I agreed, though reluctantly. I wanted to be there when they arrested him, to see the the look on his face when he realized he was finally caught. When I got home, I checked on Bella, who was happily playing board games with Jennifer. She was safe for now, but Thompson's threat lingered in my mind. I decided we wouldn't be staying at our house that night. I packed overnight bags for both of us and told Bella we were having a special sleepover at a hotel with a pool. She was thrilled with the idea, completely unaware of the real reason. The hotel, I kept the curtains closed and put a chair against the door. I barely slept that night, jumping at every sound in the hallway. The next morning, I called Detective Rodriguez for an update. We brought Thompson in last night, she said. Based on your evidence and his prior employment record, we got a warrant to search his home and devices. And I pressed. It's worse than we thought. His computer had thousands of images and videos. Some of the content, she paused. Let's just say it's enough to put him away for a very long time. Relief washed over me. So he's in custody? Yes. He's being charged with multiple counts of possession of child pornography, voyeurism, and making criminal threats. Given the amount of evidence, he's not getting out anytime soon. I thanked her and hung up, feeling like a weight had been lifted from my shoulders. Thompson was behind bars. Bella was safe, but something still bothered me. Later that day, after checking out of the hotel, I drove past Thompson's house. There was police tape across the door, and a forensics van was parked outside. As I watched, officers carried out boxes of evidence and computer equipment. A neighbor was standing on her porch, watching the scene. I pulled over and approached her. Excuse me. You know what's going on? I asked, pretending to be just a curious passerby. They asked Bill last night, she said. Police won't say why, but they've been in and out of his house all day. Did you know him well? Not really. He kept to himself, moved here about 5 years ago after returning. She leaned in closer. Between you and me, there was always something off about him, the way he'd watch the neighborhood kids playing. I never let my grandchildren visit when he was around. Did he have any family? Visitors? No family that I ever saw, but he did have friends over sometimes. Older men like him. They'd meet in his garage with the door closed. Always thought that was strange. A chill ran down my spine. Friends? Other men like him? What if Thompson wasn't acting alone? What if there was a whole network of these predators sharing photos and information? I thanked the woman and left, my mind racing. Called Detective Rodriguez again and told her what the neighbor had said. We're already looking into his associates, she assured me. His computer had evidence of communication with others. We're tracking them down now. What about the children in his photos? Are you identifying them, making sure they're safe? That's part of the process, yes. It's going to take time, but we're doing everything we can. I hung up, not entirely satisfied. The system was working now, but only because I had forced it to. How many other predators were out there, operating unchecked because no one was paying attention? The next few weeks were tense. I installed a security system at our house, changed our routines, taking different routes to school and work. I even considered moving to a new neighborhood, but decided against it for now. I didn't want to uproot Bella unless absolutely necessary. Thompson remained in custody, denied bail due to the severity of the charges and the perceived flight risk. Detective Rodriguez kept me updated on the case. They had identified several other men from Thompson's communications and were billing cases against them as well. One evening, about a month after Thompson's arrest, I received a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me I should. Hello. I said cautiously, is this the father of Bella? A woman's voice asked my guard. Immediately went up, who is that? My name is Karen, my son. He was one of the children in that man's. Photos the police showed me some of the less explicit ones to help identify victims. I sat down heavily. I'm so sorry, don't be. I'm calling to thank you, the detective. Told me, you were the one who caught him, who knows how long he would have continued if you hadn't stepped up. Her words hit me hard in my focus on protecting Bella. Hadn't fully processed the impact on other families. I just did what any parent would do, I said. No, Karen replied firmly. Most people would have reported it once and moved on. You didn't give up. Because of you, my son and dozens of other children are safer now. After we hung up, I went to check on Bella. She was sleeping peacefully, clutching her favorite stuffed animal. I gently brushed the hair from her forehead and kissed her goodnight. The nightmare wasn't completely over. Thompson's case would take months to go through the courts. There would be hearings and possibly a trial where I might have to testify. The other men in his network were still being investigated. But for now, at least, the immediate threat was gone. As I watched my daughter sleep, I renewed my promise to protect her at all costs. The world could be a dark and dangerous place, but I would always stand between her and that darkness, always. The next morning, I woke up feeling more determined than ever. The call from Karen had really hit home. This wasn't just about Bella anymore. It was about all those kids whose parents might not even know they were being targeted. I made breakfast while Bella got ready for school, trying to act normal despite everything going on in my head. Daddy, can we go to the park after school today? She asked, munching on her cereal. Sure thing, kiddo, but we might try a different park today, okay? I was still paranoid about our regular spots, worried about Thompson's friends who might be watching us. I dropped Bella off at school and headed to work, but I couldn't focus. My mind kept drifting to what the neighbor had said about Thompson having visitors. I called Detective Rodriguez during my lunch break. Any updates on Thompson's associates? I asked as soon as she answered. We've identified 3 men so far, she said. We're billing cases against them. But that these things take time. Do you have their names? Addresses? I pressed. There was a pause on the line. You know I can't share that information with you. We talked about this. No more amateur detective work. I'm just worried. What if they know about me? About Bella. We have no evidence suggesting they're targeting you specifically. She reassured me. But if you notice anything suspicious, call me immediately. After work, I picked up Bella and took her to a park across town. I sat on a bench where I could see the entire playground, scanning every adult who came near. Bella was having a blast on the swings, completely oblivious to my paranoia. Then I noticed a man sitting in a car across the street. He had been there since we arrived, just sitting there watching the park. My heart rate spiked. I casually got up and walked to a different bench, one that gave me a better view of the car. The man was middle-aged, wearing sunglasses despite the cloudy day. He seemed to be taking photos with a long lens camera. I immediately called Bella over. Time to go, sweetie. But we just got here, she protested. I know, but I just remembered we need to pick up groceries before the store closes. It was a lame excuse, but it worked. I held Bella's hand tightly as we walked to our car, positioning myself between her and the suspicious vehicle. As we drove away, I noticed the car pulling out behind us. My palms were sweating on the steering wheel. Was he following us? I made a series of random turns, and sure enough, the car stayed behind us. I called Detective Rodriguez while driving. There's a man following us in a gray sedan. I think he was taking pictures at the park. Where are you now? She asked, her voice voice instantly alert. I told her our location, and she promised to send a patrol car. Kept driving, making random turns through residential neighborhoods, trying to lose our tail without scaring Bella. Why are we going in circles, Daddy? She asked from the backseat. Just taking the scenic route, I said, trying to keep my voice light. Finally, I spotted a police cruiser up ahead. I pulled over next to it and explained the situation to the officers. They immediately set off to look for the gray sedan. It was gone. Probably realized we were onto him, one officer said. We'll keep an eye out, but you should go home and lock your doors. That night, I could barely sleep. Every noise outside had me jumping up to check the windows. I kept thinking about that car, about Thompson's threats, about his network of friends. The next morning, I called in ESSEC to work again and kept Bella home from school. Are we having a special day? She asked excitedly. Something like that, I said, forcing a smile. How about we watch movies and make cookies? She was thrilled with the idea, but I couldn't enjoy it. I kept checking the windows, jumping at every sound. Around noon, my phone rang. Detective Rodriguez, we need you to come down to the station, she said. There's been a development. What kind of development? Asked, my stomach dropping. I'd rather discuss it in person. Can you come in this afternoon? I called Jennifer to watch Bella again and headed to the police station, my mind racing with worst-case scenarios. When I arrived, Detective Rodriguez led me to a small conference room where another detective was waiting. This is Detective Thomas Chen, she introduced us. He's been working on identifying Thompson's associates. Detective Chen nodded at me. We've made some progress. Based on the evidence from Thompson's computer, we've identified several men who are sharing content with him. One of them was at the park yesterday, Rodriguez continued. The man in the gray sedan. His name is Richard Barker. My blood ran cold. So he was following us? He knows who I am. It appears so, Chen said grimly. We found communications between Thompson and Barker discussing you. Thompson told him you were the one who got him arrested. So what now? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Is Barker in custody? Not yet, Rodriguez admitted. We're billing a case against him. We don't have enough for an arrest warrant yet. So he's just out there, free to follow me and my daughter. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. We're putting a patrol car near your house, she assured me, and we're expediting the warrant process. But in the meantime, you need to be extra cautious. I left the station feeling worse than when I arrived. The police were trying, but the system was still moving too slowly. These men were organized, sharing information, and now they knew exactly who I was. When I got home, Jennifer was helping Bella with an art project. Had paper and glitter all over the kitchen table. Everything okay? Jennifer asked, clearly noticing my expression. Just work stuff, I lied. Thanks for watching her. After Jennifer left, I double-checked all the locks and windows. I even pushed a bookshelf in front of the back door, probably overkill, but it made me feel better. That night, after Bella was asleep, I sat in the living room with all the lights off, just watching the street through a crack in the curtains. Around midnight, I noticed a car driving slowly past our house. It was too dark to see if it was the same gray sedan. It circled the block 3 times before parking down the street. I called the police immediately. They sent a patrol car, but by the time it arrived, the suspicious vehicle was gone. The officers took a report and promised to keep an eye on the house, but I could tell they were skeptical. The next few days were a blur of anxiety. I took Bella to school and picked her up myself, checking constantly for anyone following us. I installed a doorbell camera and motion sensor lights around the house. Even bought a baseball bat that I kept by my bed, just in case. Detective Rodriguez called with updates every day, but progress was frustratingly slow. They had identified more of Thompson's associates, but were still gathering evidence for arrests. Meanwhile, I kept seeing the same gray sedan in different places, near Bella's school, in the grocery store parking lot, driving past our house. Each time I reported it, but the car was always gone by the time police arrived. I was starting to feel like I was losing my mind. Was I just being paranoid? Was I seeing threats that weren't really there? Then one afternoon, I got a call from Bella's school. She hadn't come back to class after recess. My heart nearly stopped. I raced to the school, running every red light on the way. The principal met me at the front office, her face grave. We've searched the entire school. She's not here. We've already called the police. I couldn't breathe. This couldn't be happening. Bella, not my little girl. Did anyone see anything? I managed to ask. One of the playground monitors saw her talking to a man by the fence, the principal said. She thought it was a relative because Bella seemed to know him. My mind immediately went to Richard Barker. Had he been watching us long enough to make Bella think she knew him? Had he pretended to be a friend of mine? The police arrived and immediately launched a search. They took a description of Bella and the man from the playground monitor. They checked security cameras, but discovered that the school's outdoor cameras had been tampered with that morning. Work of someone who clearly knew what they were doing. I was frantic, pacing the school office, calling everyone I knew to help search. Detective Rodriguez arrived and took charge of the situation. We're putting out an Amber Alert, she told me, and we have officers checking all known addresses associated with Thompson's network. This is Barker, I said, my voice shaking with rage and fear. I know it is. He's been following us for days. We're looking for him, she assured me. His home, his workplace, everywhere he might go. Hours passed with no sign of Bella. It was getting dark and my hope was fading. I couldn't stop thinking about all those folders on Thompson's phone, all those children he had victimized. The thought of Bella becoming one of those victims was unbearable. Then my phone rang. Unknown number, I answered immediately. Hello? My voice was desperate. Daddy, it was Bella. My knees nearly gave out with relief. Bella, where are you? Are you okay? I'm at the park, she said, her voice small and scared. The man said he was your friend, but he wasn't nice. Which park, sweetheart? Tell me exactly where you are. The one with the big blue slide where we went last week. I knew exactly which park she meant. It was about 2 miles from the school. Stay where you are, Bella. I'm coming right now. Is the man still there? No, he left. Got a phone call and started yelling. Then he ran away. I relayed the information to Detective Rodriguez, who immediately dispatched officers to the park. I jumped in my car and drove there like a madman, with Rodriguez following close behind. When I arrived, I saw Bella sitting alone on a bench near the playground. I ran to her and scooped her up in my arms, holding her tighter than I ever had before. Are you okay? Did he hurt you? I asked, checking her for any injuries. I'm okay, she said. He just talked weird and kept taking pictures. Then he tried to get me to go to his car, but I remembered what you said about strangers. I hugged her again, tears streaming down my face. You did exactly the right thing, Bella. I'm so proud of you. Detective Rodriguez approached us, her face serious but relieved. relieved. We need to get you both somewhere safe. Man Barker is still out there. They took us to a hotel under police protection. Rodriguez interviewed Bella gently, getting a detailed description of Barker and what had happened. Bella explained that when the man tried to get her to his car, she ran away and hid in the park. She found a phone that someone had left on a bench and remembered my number. She's incredibly brave, Rodriguez told me after the interview, and smart too. Most kids wouldn't have thought to look for a phone or remembered their parents' number. I nodded, still shaken by how close I'd come to losing her. What happens now? We have a full manhunt for Barker. His photo is all over the news. Won't get far, she paused. But there's something else you should know. When Bella mentioned he got a phone call and started yelling, we think that was when he found out Thompson had made a deal. A deal? What kind of deal? Thompson has agreed to provide information about his network in exchange for consideration during sentencing. He's giving us names, addresses, online accounts, everything. That's probably why Barker panicked and left Bella at the park. Next few days were a blur. We stayed in the hotel under police protection while the manhunt for Barker continued. I took time off work and Bella stayed out of school. We watched movies, played board games, and tried to pretend everything was normal. 3 days later, Rodriguez called with news. We got him. Barker was trying to flee the state, but state troopers caught him at a gas station off the highway. The relief was overwhelming. And the others? Thompson's network. We've arrested 5 more men based on Thompson's information. There are probably more out there, but we've dismantled the core group. Over the next few weeks, life slowly returned to normal. Bella went back to school and I went back to work. We moved to a new apartment in a different neighborhood. I just couldn't feel safe in our old house anymore. Thompson's trial was scheduled for the following month. I would have to testify, but Bella wouldn't. I had enough evidence without putting her through that trauma. Barker and the others were facing multiple charges, from possession of child pornography to attempted kidnapping. One evening, as I was tucking Bella into bed in our new apartment, she looked up at me with those big brown eyes. Daddy, are the bad men gone now? I sat on the edge of her bed. Yes, sweetie, they're gone and they can't hurt you or any other kids anymore. She nodded thoughtfully. But because I like going to the park and the pool and I don't want to be scared. You don't have to be scared, I promised her. And you know what? You're the bravest person I know. She smiled and snuggled deeper under her covers. Can we get ice cream tomorrow? I laughed, amazed at how resilient kids could be. Absolutely. As I turned off her light and closed her door, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time, peace. The nightmare was over. Sin and his friends were facing just as Bella. With safe I had kept my promise to protect her no matter what, and in the process we had helped protect countless other children too. It wasn't the kind of victory you could celebrate the whole situation. It was too dark for that. But it was a victory nonetheless. I poured myself a small glass of whiskey and sat by the window of our new apartment looking out at the quiet street below. For the first time in months, I didn't feel the need to check the locks twice or scan for suspicious cars. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight at least we were safe.